Good day, everyone. Welcome to Practice Mathematics with Ade. So, on today's episode, we'll be looking at. Good day, everyone. Welcome with. Good day, good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Practice Mathematics with Ade. So today we'll be looking at a particular topic known as limits. We'll be looking at the topic known as limits. So under limit, we have what we call the properties of limit. Limit is it's this with substitution generally. Limit this with substitution generally. So under the limit, there are some important properties that we need to take note of. Number one is if they ask you to name C where x tends to a, C can be a constant. Name C where x tends to a is equals to C because it's a constant. E.g., if I give you something like lane 2 where x tends to 3, your answer is still 2 because it's a constant. Then number 2, we have limit of C f of x tends to a. So we can also write this as the C there is a constant. Constant times a function can be written as C ln. You can bring out the constant, then you limit the function where x tends to a. Then property 3 says that our lane f of x plus or minus g of x, when you have two functions, adding them together or subtracting them, we can also have it as this. Then f of x tends to a plus or minus ln f of x tends to a. This should be g of x tends to a. It means we can separate the function, solve them separately, then add or subtract them. Number 4, have a limit under multiplication, limit of f of x dot g of x. Don't forget those these times where x tends to a. This can also be written as limit f of x as x tends to a dot ln f of x, ln g of x separately as x also tends to a, Number 5 says limit under division now, limit of f of x over g of x, and that our x tends to a. This can also be written as limit of f of x as x tends to a over limit g of x as x tends to a. Meaning you can solve them separately. Number 6, which is property 6, and please we have to take notes here. Notes under property 5 that we should note that our limits of g of x tends to a must not be equals to 0. That's the condition. It must not be equals to 0. It must not be something over 0. You have to avoid that. Then number 6, limit of p x as x tends to a is equals to p of a, where p is the polynomial. This one is talking about the direct substitution. It's talking about direct substitution, where p is the polynomial. Then number 7, which is property 7 now, limit of f of x raised to power n, that is the function raised to power n as x tends to a. It can also be written as limit of f of x tends to a, then raised to power n, where your n is an integer. We need to understand the condition, not a fraction but an integer. Number 8, which is the last property, says if you have limits of nth roots of f of x and x tends to a, this can also be written as nth root of the limit of f of x tends to a, x tends to a, where our n is a positive integer, where n is a positive integer, where n is a positive integer. So these are the basic 8 properties of limits that we need to take very, very seriously before we start solving questions. Thank you. God bless you.